Are your stock horns a little lame? Well, we've got a better option. All right, so we made a vehicle-specific kit for the Volkswagen MK7 GTI and the Alltrack that includes a bracket and a wiring harness and two red Hella Supertone horns. If you want a color other than red, or you don't want it to be quite so ear-piercingly loud, you can go with the 6-speed horns in a variety of colors, and they are a little bit quieter. So these things look really cool hanging out behind your grill, and they will get everyone's attention. So we're going to show you how to install them. It's very easy. First thing we're going to do here is remove the factory grill with two T25s at either side. Oh. Now the grill should just pop out, and we can see where we're working with. The bracket installs right here. You can mount the relay wherever you want. It's got a little tab on it, so you can stick that through just about anything. For us, I'm going to use this little T25 on the airbox. Just going to disconnect the battery real quick. Unhook the battery, I guess. All right, so for power, we are going to use the fuse box. We're going to connect it to this rightmost terminal here. And for ground, we're going to ground back here at the firewall. You could just go straight to the battery if you want to, but I think it'll be a little cleaner if we go through the fuse box. So first thing we're going to do is pull this front cover so that we can get some wires into the fuse box. There's just one little tab at the bottom, and then you pull right up. That's the tab, needs pushed back. And now we're ready to get the power wire into the fuse box. So we're going to use this rightmost terminal, but we need to route the wire up into the fuse box, up through here, and then on top of it so the terminal can stick out the back. I'm going to feed my grabber tool down into the fuse box. And now all right, now we're going to pop our 8mm nut on that end terminal there. And it's a captured nut, so you don't have to worry about losing it. And once it's loose, you just got to kind of pop it off the top of the stud because the wires are tight once it's actually loose. Okay. Take our wire, and then we'll bend our terminal a little bit so that it can sit like so. And get back on there and tighten her down. All right, we're going to pop our power wire into the battery cable collector there so it's nice and tidy, and we can put our front plate back in. All right, so now for the ground, we're going to snake it between the battery bag and the ECU and around back. And then with a 10mm, we're going to pull this ground off the firewall here and add our ground. All right, so I've got a 10mm on a U-joint and an extension here so we can get to this ground, but you could do it with just a wrench as well. Ground on, and back on with that. Okay, now we're going to plug in our relay that we mounted earlier. It can only go one way. All right, and we can clean up these wires later. We're going to go underneath now and work on this part of the harness. Okay, so now we're underneath, and we've got our street shield off, but we do have our street shield brace here, so that'll be something to kind of work around, but unless you have one of those, you won't have that. So we're going to pull off this charge pipe right here. All right, so here on the driver's side, we can see the driver's side horn. We're just going to pull the connector, a little push-pull style connector. And then you can remove that horn if you want, but we're just going to leave it there. This connector, we're actually going to cut the wires right after the connector and crimp our own connector on to work with our harness. All right, so we're going to cut these wires at the horn connector. We're going to leave just enough so that if we ever wanted to reinstall this connector, we have enough wire to reconnect them, but no longer than that. Not like that. All right, so now I'm going to crack the wire loom on this thing so we can get the wires out a little bit. Get a little end piece there. Okay, now we're gonna strip about a 1/2 inch off the end of each of these with our Schwab and wire strippers and crimp tool. Okay, before putting our new terminals on, we're gonna put our plugs onto the wires. We're just going to slip them over the wires and we're going to go the skinny end towards the new plug. All right, so with our Schwab and strippers and crimpers, we're going to put our new terminals into the correct crimper. This is the top one, the 1.5, and that's tangs towards the W side. And we'll get that in there, and then we'll just slide the wire in and give it a squeeze, and that'll crimp her down. And then we can crimp the bigger wings onto the insulation of the wire. Nicely crimped, and now we'll crimp down the insulation tangs. Okay. All right, same thing for the next one. All right, now we're ready to pop our connector on. We're gonna push, so the side that has the clip on the connector is gonna match up with the open side of the crimps on the terminals, if that makes sense. You push them in, and you should get a little click, and you can tug against it, and she's in there. So again, the open side, I mean, we crimped it shut, but the open side of the terminal goes to the top or the part of the new connector with the clip. Jammed in, it's in, and then pull your plugs down to the connector to seal them up. Okay, now you just got to push the red part of the connector, and that locks everything in place. Okay, so now we're gonna disconnect this passenger side horn, and we're just gonna cap the connector with heat shrink tubing just to protect it, and because if we left it just connected, that horn would still work and it just sounds kind of odd. All right, now we're gonna take our trusted heat gun and shrink the heat shrink. Okay, so we're going to start routing our harness a little bit. We need to get this connector down to the connector we just installed on the stock horn plug. So what I'm going to do here is pop up this grommet on the airbox and run all this stuff down beneath the airbox. I'll run this connector down towards the original horn, and then this cable is going to the new horns. So pop up here. And then we'll send the horn connector down south. Here she is, just like we wanted. So we'll just connect it to our new connector. There you go. And then we can take this cable and zip tie it to some existing wire harnesses. Now we're going to take this part of the harness that's going to the Supertones, and we're going to snake it right past the driver's side headlight here. All right, so we're gonna get our bracket in place. We're just gonna pull these two T30s here at the front. Okay, so when the Supertones show up, they're gonna have an 11mm nut on the back with some kind of like universal brackets that they want you to use. We need to get rid of those so we can just install on our bracket. But when these show up, this nut is always super tight, so it's tough to get a wrench on there and work with just your hands. So easiest thing to do is just slip it in a vise and turn the horn with your hands. Okay, so now we're gonna put the horns in, and you could put these on the bracket first, but the thing is that you have to line them up just so. So you need to have one of these windows at the very bottom, dead south, so that it can kind of fit into the contours of the bumper. So you could put it on first, but then you might have it twisted and need to reorient it, so we just do it this way. All right, we're gonna pop our flag connectors onto this one. Like so, that'll be nice. We're going to install our nut caps onto the nuts to make sure that they don't ever punch holes in the AC condenser. All right, now we'll tighten the center T30s down. All right, so we wanted to show you how to install this on an Alltrack because it's got one extra step when compared with a GTI. When you go to put the grill in the Alltrack has this deep rear shelf kind of thing, and it runs into the grills. Not too bad. You could install it without trimming. It'll go. It just kind of pushes into them, and then that pushes them into the condenser a little bit. So we've got marked on the back of the grill where we make contact, and we're just going to hit it with a Dremel, knock off maybe a 1/4 of an inch, and then they'll fit nice and cozy. All right, now with the back of our grill dremeled out, we should be able to put it in place and it'll fit just fine. All right, so we're putting our T25s back in the grill, and then make sure you've got everything else buttoned back up. Your intercooler couplers back on, belly pan back on, battery reconnected.